Hi, y'all. Make sure you are buckled up because today we're going to be diving deep into one of the most interesting, mysterious, but tragic stories of the 90s R&B world, the group Divine. Now, if you grew up in the 90s or you've by chance taken a tour of R&B classics on Spotify, you may know their hit song, Lately. And you honestly don't even have to be a classic baby or be born in the 90s to vibe to this particular one. Yes, it's that good. It was the kind of song that gave you all the feels and was perfect for different kinds of occasions, from weddings to prom, just name it. But the big question is, where are these girls? How did they blow up with a single hit, just to disappear almost as immediately as they came? But before we start with all the drama, let's understand the plot of the whole story. Divine was a girl group in New York City, in an era where R&B was the real deal genre to be in. The industry had other women groups like TLC, SWV, X Escape, and En Vogue. And here's the thing, while other groups were literally fighting to gain attention, Divine was an exception. It had the voices of Kia Thornton, Nikki Bratcher, and Tanya Tash, which was pure, refined gold. They were all trained gospel singers, and it was evident with every note they sang. They put in all of their souls and emotions into every note. It was a little wonder that Lately hit so hard and blew up. When they dropped Lately in 1998, it was an instant classic. It literally went straight to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Now, why this is amazing is because it's rare for new groups. Now, Divine happened to be a black group of young women with a smaller label. Now, that was a huge deal. But while everyone was talking about how they would be the next big thing in the R&B industry, they vanished. One-hit wonders? Maybe not. It was actually way more complicated than that. And as we continued with the story, you finally understood why. There's so much that was untold and had to be uncovered, from the struggles they faced from their label, Pendulum Records, to the personal struggles the members of Divine faced following their diminishing fame. We'll also see how mental health played an important role in the group's crash, especially for Kia, who has been most outspoken about how the disbandment affected her emotionally. The Divine story is a typical example of what could have been. But we have to understand that the music industry is tough, especially for young black women. Beyond the so many what ifs, the truth was that the pressure was too much for these talented women, and sadly, they weren't able to show what they could really do in the music world beyond their first song. What makes it really sad is that people were rooting for them. In this video, we'd unravel the Divine's journey from their hit song to the fame, the behind-the-scenes issues, management, and mental health issues. And by the end of this video, you'd be shocked by how much depression, personal struggles, bad management could disband a group, even when people wanted the best for them. That's enough for the intro. Let's get down to the full story and what brought them into the limelight. Their song, Lately. The hit song, Lately.
Baby, I've been torn apart. I wish you hadn't.
The hit song, Lately, by the group Divine is one of those R&B songs in the late 90s that changed the narrative of R&B songs. Lately became an instantaneous classic that took the group to global fame and put their vocal talents in the limelight. Lately was Divine's debut single, and it quickly rose to fame. The song actually hit number 1 on the Hot 100 Billboard and stayed there for the next 2 weeks. This was a huge deal by all standards, especially considering that the group Divine was a newbie in the industry. The single went ahead to top the charts in New Zealand and ranked top 10 in the UK and Australia. It also went ahead to get a gold certification in the US, solidifying its position as one of the most memorable R&B songs at that time. The success of Lately was attributed to a number of factors, including the perfect harmonization, emotional depth, vulnerability, and tenderness. This made it very easy for listeners to connect to it on a personal and emotional level. Its smooth production, which was laced with R&B flavors, gave it a timeless quality. And this is why even till today, Lately remains a go-to song for classic R&B lovers. In all, Lately is a love song that is pure and simple. The lyrics tell a story of reflection about relationships and the notice of subtle changes in a partner's behavior. The protagonist therefore questions if the partner is still in love with them, and that is definitely where the song gets its emotional connection, because anyone who is or has been in a relationship has those moments of doubt, uncertainty, or insecurity. It is relatable to a lot of people. And what makes Lately really special is the vocals. The group, consisting of three very talented singers, Kaya Thornton, Nikki Bratcher, and Tonya Tash, who were known for their incredible harmonies, made Lovely such a beautiful song. Kia Thornton's lead vocal was especially filled with emotion, while Nikki and Tanya's harmonies added richness and a soft texture to the song. This blend of beautiful yet unique voices gave Lovely a warmth and sincerity that is very hard to replicate and may never actually be replicated again. The Divine's vocals were in such a symphony with the melancholic tone of the track, so it's little wonder that the song was a massive hit. Lovely was produced by the legendary Stevie J. He was one of the key factors why Lovely became a hit, since he was a legend in the music industry at the time. The production was just like the vocals, classy, smooth, and polished. From the soft piano melodies to the gentle percussion and the beautiful background elements, each of these factors worked hand in hand to give the song a timeless feel. Unlike many songs that were created back then that gradually lost touch over the years, Lovely holds up even till date. Divine's album, Fairy Tales. When Divine released Fairy Tales, they were literally still reeling from the massive success of their debut single, Lately. This album was released by the Pendulum Records, and naturally, their fans were eager for more emotionally beautiful songs and harmonic music from the group. Everyone had thoughts of Divine becoming the next big black women group, like the second coming of groups like En Vogue and Destiny's Child. But quite unfortunately, Fairy Tales didn't hit as hard as everyone had expected. There were definitely gems in the album, but the album struggled to do as well as their single and keep up with the impact it created. And slowly, critics began to surface. Let's talk about what is in the album Fairy Tales. Fairy Tales had 12 tracks that mostly gave the smooth, romantic R&B vibes, which was a huge thing in the late 90s. The title was supposed to give this emotional pull like Lately had done, but it low-key didn't have the same effect. Other tracks like One More Try and The Way You Make Me Feel brought the harmonies people craved for, but something was off. They felt a bit too safe. It was almost like the album was trying to recreate the success of Lately, but without something new, creative, or groundbreaking, so the album became an almost, something that could have been, but was just not enough. Everyone said the production was solid. It was created by Stevie J, the same guy who produced Lately, and Love and Hip Hop, so the production was undeniably smooth and polished. To be honest and very real, by the late 90s, when the album was released, the R&B industry was in very fierce competition between various groups. From TLC to Brandy and Monica, everyone was literally releasing bangers. And so, Divine sort of faded to the background with Fairy Tales as there wasn't so much to make it stand out. Now, one question y'all might have in mind is why the album didn't do as well as everyone hoped. Here are a few reasons to actually consider. Firstly, as much as everyone loved Kia Thornton's vocals and the group's harmonies, the album lacked versatility. You know that feeling of starting a movie and seeing through to the end like just starting out and envisioning how it would end? This was exactly what happened. You could listen to 3 to 4 tracks and feel like you'd listened to the whole album. Each track seemed to grow into the next one. There was literally no, aha, that's different moment. Everyone was looking for a standout track, something different, something more, but the album just didn't give that. Secondly, we might want to look to the Divine's management a little more, which we'd be diving into soon enough. Well, words have it that the management dropped the ball and failed to keep the momentum running, especially after Lately. The group may not have gotten the push to make good use of the limelight Lately pushed them into. And we all know that fame doesn't last that long, so the sad thing is that by the time the album was finally dropped, their fame had already began to fizzle out. Lastly, the industry itself was evolving, and the album didn't want to adapt to change. By the end of the 90s, the R&B industry was shifting, and even though Divine's style was beautiful and heartwarming, it was as if they were clinging to a sound that was fading. With new trends and competition coming up, and without a standout follow-up to maintain their position in the limelight, Divine's moment gradually began to come to a halt. Fairy Tales received mixed reactions from people. While critics pointed out that Fairy Tales wasn't really as good as Lately to receive accolades, fans loved the vocals and the lush harmonies. Sadly, after Fairy Tales, Divine seemed to vanish from the scene. The lack of promotion and a standout song after their massive hit led to the group having to be dissolved. There are also talks about management issues and creative differences, which is a given in classic 90s group dramas. Still, anyone who loves 90s R&B would undeniably find hidden gems in the album Fairy Tales. It might not have been as legendary as Lately, but it sure captures the beauty of the 90s classic R&B and is filled with raw talent. The management issues. When Divine dropped their hit song Lately, the group was on fire. There was recognition and buzz, which threw the group into a place of fame, especially as the song ranked up #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It seemed like the group was ready to ride on that fame and ride all the way to stardom, which was possible, but some shady things were happening behind closed doors. So here's what happened. Divine's management team was supposed to help these talented ladies create a long-lasting career, right? But instead of doing that, they were reportedly mismanaging finances and contracts. So the group was allegedly not getting the support and proper promotion they needed after Lately. And it's therefore no surprise that their career was delayed for such a long time after Lately. And to be honest, in the 90s, especially in the R&B industry, bad management was the ultimate destruction of any group. From what has been said, Pendulum Records, which was the label Divine was signed to, wasn't really doing their best to push their album Fairy Tales. And if you remember, in the 90s, marketing and promotion were literally everything. For a single or album to be a success then, you had to have your videos constantly on screens, you had to pop up in magazines, and your music had to blast in radio stations nonstop. But for Divine, there was no extra push for them after Lately. Words even have it that the label didn't really see them as long-term investment and so didn't give them the support they needed and deserved. There were also rumors that Divine didn't make anything near what they should have earned, especially with the massive success of Lately. Just imagine being paid pennies while their single was top of charts and was playing on every radio station. Imagine how frustrating it must have been to see the success that they had created, but still not being entitled to the financial rewards of that success. It was also not helping matters that the ladies had zero control over their careers. This is a situation that has been existent for as long as we can remember in the R&B industry. R&B groups being treated like puppets while the management, labels, and people in charge controlled all the shots. The girls allegedly had no say over their image, music direction, or even how their music was promoted. And to talk about cultural differences, by the time the album Fairy Tales dropped, there was so much conflict that insiders began to talk about how much tension existed between the group and the management. While this is common in the industry, it was so peculiar in the Divine's case that it may have been part of the reasons why the group failed to bounce back after Fairy Tales did below expectations. Let's also consider the money aspect. If you look closely at the history of 90s R&B groups, you would understand that money drama will always be involved. Unfortunately, Divine wasn't an exception. The contract structure, label, and management were run in such a way that gave the group little to zero compensation. Bad classic 90s move indeed. This didn't just happen to Divine. Groups like TLC and En Vouge were also caught up in a situation where $1 million worth of records were sold, but their contracts were so bad that they got little or nothing from that money. It's downright exploitation, and it was sad that Divine had to face the same fate. The personal struggles and depression. Spoiler alert. This isn't said as much as it should be, but the world of entertainment isn't all glitz and glamour, and it was same for the R&B industry. A couple of events, from the crashed expectations for fairy tales to the mismanagement fiasco to internal clashes, led to depression of some members of the team, especially the lead vocalist, Kia Thornton. Divine was literally on top of the world when lately ranked #1 in the Hot 100 Billboard. This is like a dream come true for every artist, for their work to receive global recognition and pivot them into stardom. But for Kia and the rest of the group, this sudden rise to stardom came with a handful of hidden struggles people weren't seeing or talking about. While they were in the limelight, it wasn't as pretty behind closed doors. We've discussed the whole management scandal, but the effects of the mismanagement took a toll on the mental health of the ladies, especially Kia. After the massive hit of their single, the group struggled to get the same attention for Fairy Tales, their album. And to be honest, peeps, this wasn't just about a career going downhill. This was enough to mess up anyone's mental health too. Kia Thornton, who is regarded as the powerhouse vocalist of Divine, spoke openly about how the group's crashing took a toll on her mental health, which deteriorated and led to depression. Just imagine it. Today, you're at the very peak of your career, rocking as #1 on the Billboard chart, and in the snap of a finger, everything comes to a stop, and you hit rock bottom. Kia was evidently living the dream, but when the dream began to fade into oblivion, thanks to bad management and the brutality of the music industry, reality didn't feel so good. The music industry is a tough place to navigate for starters, and it was even tougher because the girls didn't have any say or control over their career. Kia's battle with depression is an example of how vicious fame can be, especially in a group where you have no say or control of what's thrown next. And let's also keep in mind that this was around the late 90s and early 2000s, and mental health and depression weren't talked about as openly as today. Unfortunately, Kia went through this struggle during an era in the industry when there was zero regard or consideration for an artist's emotional and mental well-being, because of a lot of pressures, which include the constant pressure to maintain a certain image, handling and juggling constant demands, being spoken down on by critics, and even worse, being sidelined by your own management who should be all out for your best interest. The music industry can be toxic, especially for Black R&B groups. And for Kia, the pressure and toxicity may have been overwhelming, and with the group losing its fame, she would definitely have been caught in feelings of anxiety and uncertainty of what steps to take next. Just think about how she would have felt, going from performing before thousands of people on stage and being the favorite of several nations to suddenly finding it hard to get a gig. It's a terrible feeling, and if it wasn't about the career, her self-esteem would have dropped down dangerous notches too. Kia's depression was further intensified by the disbandment of the group and a lack of support needed to have pushed them forward. The girls were getting scraps. The label didn't feel they were good enough for a long-term investment and had given up on them. And to top it all, they didn't have a say over anything. It's little wonder Kia had to suffer depression. The feeling of being forgotten could be the worst feeling that an artist could ever go through. From being everyone's favorite to being an outcast in the industry is a terrible experience for anyone, including the Divine. Kia, who had tasted success and the fame that came with it, probably struggled with the fact that their fans and the industry had moved on. Without Divine on the moving train, it is common for artists to struggle with depression, especially when their careers don't meet their expectations. With the shallow foundations Divine had been built on, it was sad how they ended. I mean, they had very talented people, maybe the most talented in the R&B industry at that time, but by lacking core factors like proper management, financial support, and creative control, they were susceptible to failure. In Kia's case, while being hit with the failure of her group, she didn't have the resources or emotional support to find her way through the dark phase she found herself. Depression hit her hard, and she had to take a long break from the limelight to focus on her mental health. She didn't open up about how the Divine's Grace to Grass scenario had really affected her mental health until years later. Rumored comebacks, and the reunion that never happened. The first rumors of a comeback were in the 2000s. After the massive win of Divine with Lately in 1998, everything went downhill in a flash. The shattered expectation for Fairy Tales and the disbandment. But their fans continued to hope that the group would come together again and reunite. In the early 2000s, there were whispers of the group coming back together. Every time an R&B 90s group together, like The Time with En Vogue and SWV, the fans became more hopeful that the girls might resurface again. But nothing of the sort happened. During the mid-2000s, however, Kaya Thornton from Divine made an appearance on the 6th season of The America Idol for a solo performance, and that left people shaken. I mean, everyone had missed her voice, and it was so good to hear her sing again. Her appearance on The America Idol sparked more rumors of the group considering a comeback, but nothing happened. While Kia's appearance on the show was a highlight, it was sadly not enough to lead to the reunion of the Divine. As time passed, and in the 2010s, the internet buzzed with nostalgia. The 90s vibe was shaking the internet, and Divine fans were literally begging for a comeback. Rumors had it that the group might make a comeback for a reunion tour with other groups from the 90s. Fans took it to social media, tagging the girls, hoping they would take the cue and reunite, but that didn't happen. But here's where it gets juicy. Behind the scenes, there were talks that were probably standing in the way of the group reuniting. As rumors would have it, the mismanagement issue, which led to their fallout, left unresolved tension among the group members. You know the drill: money, contracts, and creative differences. Some sources even claim that the girls, Kia Thornton, Nikki Bratcher, and Tonya Tash, weren't the same page when it came to Divine's reunion. Kia, who was the face of the group, was rumored to have been ready for a comeback, but other members seemed to have moved on and weren't really considering reuniting. Despite all the drama behind the scenes, the fans kept pushing for a comeback. When Spotify and Apple Music started gaining recognition, fans rediscovered their favorite hits from the group Divine, especially Lately and One More Try from the album Fairy Tales. This got fans even more hopeful for Divine's reunion. But the group was dead silent about the suggestion of a comeback. Then a few years ago, some Instagram accounts claimed that Kia Thornton had hinted of a new Divine song which was still undergoing touches, and once more rumors were all over the place, but once again, it was a letdown. It was like what happened with the album Fairy Tales. Maybe what was left of the group wasn't strong enough for a comeback. What exactly was the reason behind Divine not coming back? Apart from the management drama, the team members were not on the same page. While Kia Thornton was completely open about her enthusiasm of continuing with her solo career in interviews, the other members decided to pull back completely from the limelight. Another thing was that the music industry had changed. When Divine popped up in the 90s, R&B was the real deal, but in the 2010s, the narrative had shifted. Solo artists are gaining more recognition at the time, and much attention wasn't given to girl groups like before. So even if the girls had decided to do a comeback, would the industry had given them a warm welcome? There was definitely a very slim chance of a warm welcome. The fact that Divine fans didn't get the opportunity of a reunion was quite sad, because for some fans, Divine remains their ride or die. And with the nostalgia of the 2000s, Divine would have made a great comeback. I mean, if groups like Xscape and SWV pulled it off, why not Divine? Sadly, the chances of Divine reuniting are very slim even today. It seems like the members have all moved on with their lives. And even though some fans would kill to see them together at a studio again, it's an occurrence that might never happen. What are the Divine members doing now? Kia didn't exactly just fade into the background because she made a comeback by appearing on America Idol Season 6, and that got people talking. Isn't that the girl from Divine? Yes, it was her, and she totally killed it, just like she did with Lately. While Kia didn't make it really far on the America Idol, her appearance kind of put her in our thoughts again. You know the saying, out of sight, out of mind? By resurfacing again, Kia raised a buzz around her angelic voice and the raw talent of the group Divine. After her days in the Idol, she started a solo career, and rumor has it that she works behind the scenes in the music industry, but nothing huge has dropped from her. Well, Kia has evidently kept her business and life off social media. Fans sometimes catch her performing at events or collaborating with other artists, but for the most part, she's definitely living her life away from the limelight and social media as well. Nikki Bratcher, who happened to be one of the backup vocalists, which in no wise made her less important, went completely off after the disbandment. It was almost as if she totally vanished. While this doesn't mean she's living a mysterious life, she's been very quiet, maybe secretive. From the information gathered, Nikki totally withdrew from the music industry so she could focus on her personal life and mental health. There has been no info on what she's been up to in the past couple of years, as she has been very private. It gives the I'm totally done with the industry vibe. But hey, she probably made the best decision for herself, and it's important to prioritize mental well-being and sanity. The chances of ever seeing Nikki in the limelight again are very slim, but we wish her well no matter what. Now, Tonya Tash, the third member of Divine. Tonya has been totally elusive since the group split up. If anyone's hoping for a feature on Tonya, the fellow might as well dig for a long time. Tonya didn't pursue any music career, and she has been very quiet on social media too. It's like she totally stepped out from the entertainment industry, like Nikki, to lead a private life. While some rumors say that Tonya left the industry to focus on her family life, others rumor that the ugly turns of incidents with Divine, especially from the management hullabaloo, had soured the idea of returning for her. Either way, this sis has made it evidently clear to not be about public life anymore, and the least we can do is respect that decision. Sometimes, leaving the industry can be the best move to secure your peace and sanity. Even though none of the girls are making music anymore, at least from a public perspective, Divine's legacy lives on and, if anything, continues to wax strong. Lately, it is still a hit and continues to be played on throwback R&Bs to this day. If you ever go on Spotify or Apple Music and go through R&Bs from the 90s, you are sure to hear Lately at one point or the other. And it's also a bit sad how even though fairy tales didn't get public recognition then, they took place as part of the golden songs of the 90s R&B. It leaves you wondering what would have been if they had received as much recognition as it does today.